Good afternoon, and welcome to the North Carolina Bar Association's panel series with the North Carolina Department of Justice. Today, we are featuring the labor section. We have three panelists here with us. I'm going to go ahead and ask each panelist to introduce themselves. Vanessa, we'll start with you.
Okay, so my name is Vanessa Totten, and I'm actually the section head for the labor section. I graduated from law school in 2001 from UNC Chapel Hill. Since then, I have worked for a firm, and then I also worked in-house before I came to DOJ. Since I've been at DOJ, I've been in different sections. I started off in actually the section of torts, where I did workers' comp primarily. Then I went to service state agency. Then I also worked in the public safety section, and then I went to the education sections, and now I'm in the section head for labor.
Stacy?
Hi, I'm Stacy Phipps, Special Deputy Attorney General here in the labor section. I graduated from North Carolina Central University in 1999, and I was in state government while I went to law school, and I've been in and out of government since then. I worked in the tort claims section. At that time, it also included workers' comp. I was in the previously crime control public safety section that has also changed names. I also worked at the State Ethics Commission and in private practice, all before joining the labor section.
All right, and Madison.
Hi, I'm Madison Beveridge. I'm an Assistant Attorney General here in the labor section. I went to the University of North Carolina as well. I graduated in 2017. I've also been sort of in and out of state government. During law school, I interned with a federal district judge. Then I did a clerkship after graduation and did a little bit private. Came back to state government with the Division of Employment Security during COVID. So I was conducting appeals hearings on unemployment claims. It was a pretty chaotic time. And then I've been at DOJ since 2023, 2023. First in the services to state agencies section, and then in the labor section for the past year, over a year now.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and get into our questions. We're going to start with Vanessa, and I want to ask Vanessa to give us an umbrella overview of the labor section so that we have some kind of context when y'all get into these specific questions.
Okay, so we represent the Department of Labor, and the Department of Labor, pretty much their mission is to provide a safe, healthy, productive workforce for the citizens of North Carolina. And what we do is we handle any of their cases related to that because they're primarily a regulatory agency. So we handle their amusement cases. If there's occupational safety and health, or someone may be where as far as safety violations for construction or for fall protection, just anything related to their OSH section. We also handle elevators when we have elevator cases, as well as any other regulatory cases that they handle. Now, what we also do in addition to that is we represent them pretty much in any civil litigation matter, except for tort claims and workers' comp. And therefore, if they have like employment law cases where an employee would be suing them, we would handle that. They have contract cases, anything else that they have that is civil, we would pretty much primarily handle, which means we could be anywhere from the Occupational Safety Health Review Commission, we could be in OAH, we could be in state superior court, we could be sometimes, rarely though, in district court, small claims. If they have a litigation matter, it comes up there. We do the federal cases when they come up. Just pretty much anything they have, we would be. So it's a good variety in this section.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Stacy. Can you tell us a little bit about a day in the life of your position? What does that look like? Does it vary based on years of experience? Does it vary depending on the day?
It varies a lot. As Vanessa said, we do a lot of different things, even though we primarily have one client, and that is the Commissioner of Labor, the Department of Labor. Sometimes I am doing wage and hour cases. For example, if an employee makes a claim that they were underpaid or not paid for a period of time, that's something that I would work with the investigative staff on and see whether we need to file suit. We also handle things like personnel matters. Generally, those are assigned to one attorney in our section that has the most experience with that issue. Everyone in the Attorney General's office, with a few exceptions, does criminal briefs on appeal. I enjoy doing that, but primarily my caseload is OSHA, and that is a form of administrative law practiced in a specific venue that only does OSHA cases and nothing else. And so it's been interesting for me to learn about that area of law. I've been doing this particular job for about 5 years now. So most of my days are focused on OSHA regulations and practicing there, but I do like the opportunity to do a lot of other things. All of our litigation now is, I shouldn't say all, most of our litigation now is online. We converted to online platforms during COVID, and it worked so well that we just haven't gone back. There are some exceptions for oral argument, but most of the time we do everything the way you're seeing it right now.
So for anyone who's viewing that's not familiar with OSHA, can you tell us a little bit about that?
OSHA stands for Occupational Safety and Health Act, and there's a federal act. North Carolina in 1970 adopted a state act as well, and the goal is to provide employees with a safe workplace. We are what's called a state plan, which means we administer the plan ourselves. We do not follow the federal plan, but for the most part, the federal standards have been adopted by North Carolina. The difference is that our safety inspectors, our health inspectors, are state employees rather than working for the federal government, and our plan is administered by the State Department of Labor versus through the Federal Department of Labor and OSHA.
And what might an OSHA violation look like?
For example, there is a book of standards that apply to construction work, and there's another book of standards that apply to everything else for the most part. So a violation could be something like not providing workers with fall protection while they're putting shingles on a roof. That's one of our very common ones. So if you violate that standard, you can be issued a citation. And it's a little bit like getting a traffic ticket. You can either pay it or you can appeal it. You can have your day in court. And of course, they go to more complex things, such as when workers are killed while working. And that could be from any number of things. We see amputations, motor vehicle accidents, all sorts of industrial accidents. So it's a wide variety of things that are contained in the Code of Federal Regulations, the CFR.
Thank you. Madison, can you tell us a little bit about the day in the life of an assistant AG in the section?
Sure. So I think it does vary a little bit based on experience. Stacy has much more heavy caseload than I do, but it's working with the client, whether it be the OSH division, or I do handle some wage and hour cases as well. So, discussing cases with the client, potentially negotiating settlements, because a lot of our cases do settle before it goes to hearing, reviewing case files, drafting motions if necessary, and discussing cases, with, Stacy, Vanessa, or other attorneys in the section as well. Since I am newer, I do still come to them a lot to kind of bounce ideas back and forth on a case if I have questions. And yeah, it really does vary every day. I'm in state court sometimes, before the OSH Review Commission, and at OAH for wage and hour matters.
And for anyone viewing who's not familiar with OAH, that's the Office of Administrative Hearings. Yeah. All right, so Vanessa, as the section head, can you tell us a little bit about what the requirements are to be hired as an assistant AG in the labor section?
Of course. So we actually have attorneys in our sections anywhere from attorney ones, we have attorney twos, we have attorney threes, we have attorney fours. In terms of those positions, it depends on what position you're applying for regarding what experience you have. So some more, if you're a younger attorney in your career, you would probably try to apply for one of the attorney one positions. However, most of our attorney ones still have been practicing for a number of years, 3 to 4 years at least, before they come to our section. What we primarily look for in this section is someone, first of all, that's going to continue to carry out the mission of the Department of Justice, which is to provide excellent legal representation. That includes a facet of things in terms of having strong litigation skills. And if you don't have litigation skills that you're willing to learn very quickly, someone that has strong writing skills, someone that also has great oral communication. And because we represent the Department of Labor, and to be honest, this is going to be consistent no matter what section you're in, you need to provide excellent customer service. That means that if your client calls, I don't care if the person is the general counsel all the way down to just someone that's a rank and file employee, you return their call and you help them and you assist them, because we treat everyone equally. And just someone that comes to our section needs to know that they also need to be a team player. Obviously, you can't really determine that from interviewing someone, but that is very important to us because we work as a team, not only internally at Department of Justice, but we also work as a team with our client. And when I look for someone, I look for if it's someone that could be those things.
So you mentioned that you do have attorney ones, but that many of those people have been practicing for a couple of years before they get that job. So can you be hired directly out of law school?
So an attorney one position doesn't necessarily have to have a lot of experience. The problem of it is it depends on what the pool is, because you pick the most qualified person. So you may be in a pool where you are the most qualified person. You just never know. So please do apply. But with that said, it just so happened the last positions that we've had that have been attorney ones, at least one of them had 5 years, the other one had 4 years. But again, that varies. So I don't want anyone that's seeing this that's straight out of law school to be discouraged from applying. Another thing to keep in mind, and this is across the board at DOJ as well, is there are some attorneys become a volunteer attorney here at DOJ in different sections if you're interested in it. In fact, my very first attorney four that I hired in this section, he was actually a volunteer attorney, and then he worked his way up from a volunteer attorney to a temp, and then he became attorney 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that is another way to come in this section, is to start as a temp as well. And those are sometimes published, sometimes they're not. You can always follow up directly with me, or you can also reach out to Melissa Lovell, who also gets some requests for temps as well.
Great. And when you're looking at candidates to hire, what exactly are you looking for? You mentioned the dedication to DOJ. You mentioned the ability to work with the team. Are there any other specific characteristics that you are looking for in a person when you hire?
So not all sections require this, but in one of the sections that do, I request a writing sample. And that's because of the fact that I know that, like Stacy pointed out and Madison talked about, some of the things we do is unique to our section because we're regulatory in the sense of the OSH and the wage and hour. But with that said, if you can demonstrate that you have the ability to be a concise writer, or where you're a great researcher, which I can sometimes tell that from what your written product is, then that makes it a lot easier, because writing, you either have it or you don't have it. As far as the subject matter, that's something that you can be taught. So I do look at that as well. And as far as the other application parts of it, I'll look to see if you have any litigation experience. And like I said, if you're an attorney one, applying for attorney one position, you might not have any litigation experience. But if you were in, let's say, for instance, you did clinic, or you did the third-year practice, or maybe you worked a few months somewhere else before you came here, then that's helpful as well.
Okay. So I'm going to switch over to like the externship portion of things. What are the requirements to get an internship within the labor section?
Okay. So in regards to that, what we always tell externs and interns when they want to come in is that they just have to show the ability to want to learn. because we know they don't have a lot of experience. Now, what I do look for to see if they have any research and writing experience, I don't necessarily request a writing sample. Sometimes they send it to me, but I don't necessarily require that for interns and externs. But I do look at their resumes and that they send over to see whether or not they have any research experience, or maybe they were on moot court, or they were on law review or some type of journal. Again, that's not required, but that is very helpful, because what we do is, and I think that's a lot of sections here, is that we have to do a lot of research and we have to do a lot of writing. So that's very helpful. What I also tell the externs and interns is the fact that if they want to come to our section, or again, any other section here, they have to show the willingness to. I think it's, to me, I always tell people that you get the most out of externships and internships by just telling people, this is what I want experience in. We will give you experience in a lot of different areas, but it may be something you don't necessarily want experience in. But if you tell us, I always make sure that they get that experience, whether it's where they want to see Supreme Court hearings or Fourth Circuit. Even if we don't handle it for while they're here, then I will make sure they get exposed to that. Or maybe they want to assist with a deposition. If we have one going on, I'll make sure that they assist with that. If it's where we don't have one at the time, I will make sure I'll reach out to other sections so they can at least get that experience.
I love that. I don't think law students know that they can have a say sometimes. Like, it's okay to say what you're looking for. So I really appreciate you adding that, Vanessa. Stacey, I'm going to switch to you. If somebody's interested in working in the labor section, what experiences or knowledge do you think that they should get in the meantime?
I think taking a course in administrative law is very helpful. I did not have the opportunity to take that in law school, but it's a little bit different than either civil or criminal court. So that is definitely helpful. But also, if you're specifically interested in OSHA, looking at the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations, looking at the history of OSHA a little bit, why we have it and what it does, especially why we have it here in North Carolina and some of that history. It helps you focus on why we're here, why we have this system, and the background, the policy decisions that were made to implement this program in the first place. And we try to bring our cases back to that. Sometimes I can get sidetracked thinking about different issues, but really it's about keeping the workers safe and how do we best protect them. It's not about winning the case. It's not about trying to get dollars from the fines and penalties that are levied. It's really about how can we make the workplace safer through what we do.
Madison, is there anything that you think would be helpful for them to do or to learn in the meantime?
I think what Stacey said is great. I think also from my perspective, I was someone who originally did not want to do litigation, and now that's, my job. I think I was a little afraid. I'm not great at public speaking. And so that's something I've always dreaded having to do, which, yes, I chose this career path despite that. But so I think, litigation, doing moot court in law school can be very helpful to, maybe get over those fears if there's someone with that anxiety. And just, yes, like Stacey said, learning about what OSHA is, why it exists, and focusing, if they have an interest in public service, then I think this is a very fulfilling job to have.
Vanessa, would you like to add anything?
Sorry. No, I think they pretty much covered everything as far as for that one.
So what advice would you provide to your younger self if you were interested in labor law? Madison, we're going to start with you this time.
Well, I think what I said before regarding, gaining litigation experience, not being so nervous about the idea of practicing in court or, before an administrative tribunal. And I did take administrative law, and I will say that has been tremendously helpful for this role. And I had a really great, I loved that. That was one of my favorite classes in law school. And you learn so much more about, I think, practical legal
Mhm.
issues that a lot of time in law school, you're learning more about the theories and reading cases, but you're not really focusing on the practical aspect of law. And so that administrative law is very helpful for that. And then, yes, just gain experience through, moot court or those opportunities to practice those courtroom skills is very helpful for this role.
Stacy, what would you tell your younger self?
I agree with Madison that taking the more practical courses rather than theoretical. I feel like I graduated law school somewhat ready to practice law. I knew the rules of civil procedure and criminal procedure. I did not have courses about literature and the law and some things like that. It was a very practical course load that helped me be able to draft the pleadings and file things appropriately and do the research and do the writing. And then the oral advocacy part kind of came later and the actual trial practice came later. But I had that strong academic underpinning of just the basic courses of how it all works.
Vanessa?
All right. So, in terms of what I would give, the advice I would provide is to just try. Don't be afraid to, no matter if it's something that you don't have experience in, or it's something that you may be afraid of, kind of like what Madison's talking about with litigation. It's just to put yourself out there and to be open to new opportunities. Now, in regards to the litigation, I also, when I was at Carolina, I did, I knew my whole career I wanted to do employment law and labor law. So I did employment law, I did labor law classes, I did administrative classes, and primarily my career has been focused on employment and primarily now in labor law. And one of the things that I've always been told when I was a younger attorney was just to get the experience and the rest will fall into place. And so for me, I kind of fell into employment law, even though I always wanted employment and labor law. It's just something that's always worked itself out. So just putting yourself out there, giving it your all, being very detail oriented. That's what's worked very well for me in my career. That no matter what I'm litigating, I'm always detail oriented. What I mean by that is that when you have a case before a judge, what example might be look up some of the decisions that the judge has how he's ruled in certain cases before. Gear your arguments towards that because this is what he's thinking. Gear your brief towards that as well as that. Just being open and just making sure you put the effort in and give 100%.
Absolutely. Vanessa, I'm going to come right back to you with this last question. What are the advantages of working at DOJ compared to private sector?
So I've done both. And one of the things that I love, I knew in my career that I always wanted to do public service, even if I started off doing private. And the reason is because I want to, and I know this is crochet, but I want to make a difference. Like I want to know what I do impacts the people around me in the state of North Carolina. And with that said, I know what we do as far as the regulatory work, as far as the other employment law issues that we have, that does affect the North Carolina people. And so that's one of the things, it's just the fact the public service. The other part that I like is just you have interesting work. Some of the cases, my first employment law cases, or actually my later employment law cases, were some of the first cases that had ever been held or litigated in North Carolina. In fact, one of the more recent ones, I think, was the Bosnick case where with the sexual orientation just came out on Title VII, and some of the cases dealing with First Amendment or just some of the various issues. And so I think that no matter what section they go to, whether it's our section, which I would hope they're interested in our section, is that you're going to have a variety of work and you're going to get the litigation experience a lot quicker than you would in private. The next thing that I would have to say that I like is the fact that the team that we work with, our team is great. Everyone at DOJ has a commitment to public service, even though you may be in one section, but all the other sections work together and we help each other out no matter what. And I really like that. And most of us at DOJ have been in private as well before we came here. I said the last part I like is the work balance, in terms of the fact that, yes, you're going to have moments where you're litigating nonstop. but you're also going to be where if you need to go to your kid's game or you need to go to a PTA meeting, that you can do that because everyone here knows you put in the hours, you've worked, and it's flexible that way. So that's, I think, for me, that's what I really like.
Stacy?
For me, the flexibility is key as well. I have an outside life. I have a family. I have a child that I can put on the bus in the morning and pick up in the evening. And I feel like we're in a very supportive work environment that is pro-family. And I also enjoy the variety of work, as I've said, that I don't know from one day to the next what kind of case is going to come in. And that's experience that I probably wouldn't have if I was in the private sector. I get to try out different things and see what I like, see where I can excel. And it's also not a super competitive environment. There's very much a feeling of being part of a team here. And if I'm researching an issue that I haven't dealt with before and I find out somebody else in the building has, I just go introduce myself and I've got an expert right there who can help with a new kind of subject matter. It's just a good environment to work in. And when I left state government for a period of time, I kind of saw what it was like out there and wanted to come back to the environment where I felt more supported and less competition.
All right, Madison?
Sorry, I muted myself. So I agree with a lot of what they said. I think the environment is very supportive, helpful, friendly. You're not competing with your colleagues. You're there to help each other. I've gone to Stacy a lot. Her office is right next to mine. So sometimes I'll just peek my head in there and be like, hey, I've got a quick question about this case. Do you have a second? And she's able to kind of help me talk things out. I'm big on, that's kind of how I bugged my parents during law school because I lived with them my first year and I would talk cases and things out with them. And so now it's nice to have colleagues I can do that with as well. And I would say, it's fulfilling. I've always been drawn to public service. And, it's nice to know that you're doing something good for, the people of North Carolina. And I think also the work-life balance. I don't have kids or anything yet, but I do have a very needy golden retriever. So it's nice to have time to, just take him on walks during the day while I'm working and get that kind of that minute to just kind of show my brain off a little bit and come back and work again. So I think that's very helpful.
Absolutely. I appreciate all of you giving me your time and your energy today. I'm sure that our law students and young lawyers across North Carolina will truly appreciate this. One of my favorite things about doing this series is that I'm learning as I interview. So I thank you again for that opportunity. One last question. If someone wants to reach out to you to ask you questions about the labor section and or your experience getting there, are you open to that communication?
I am. In fact, you've actually sent people to me before. So yes, I'm very open.
Absolutely.
Yes, feel free to reach out.
Great. All right. Well, again, we thank you and we'll go ahead and end this recording.